د لوی او بخونکي چښتن په نامه نن ماته د ویاړ ځای ده چې د امریکې د دفاع چارو وزارت جناب هیگل صاحب ته ښه راغلاست وایم. موږ حداقل 2 لسیزې کېږو چې یو بل پېژنو. دوی د خپل سناتوري وخت کې افغانستان ته علاقه درلوده. لومړی وار 2002 کې تشریف راوړ او له هغه ورځ نه همیشه راغلي دي. ما ته خاصا دا ویاړو چې د اتلانتیک کونسل په وخت کې چې وخت چې دوی د هغه مشر و، زه د مشاورتي بورډ غړی وم، نو دوی مې او د دوی نظریات مې له نږدې نه لیدلي دي او ورسره آشنا یو. او له ورځ نه چې دوی دا ډېره مهمه وظیفه د وزارت دفاع په غاړه نیولې، دوی د افکارو تاثیر هر اړخیز و. بحث امروز ما سر چند نکته عمده تمرکز داشت. اول آمدن از اینا در یک فرصت است که مناسبات ایالات متحده امریکا و افغانستان 25 روز بعد به صورت اساسی تغییر میکنه. استعمال قوه در افغانستان در چارچوب قطعنامه ملل متحد که در 2001 شروع شده بود در روز 31 دسامبر به انجام میرسه. از اول جنوری 2015 قوای امنیتی افغانستان مسئولیت همه‌جانبه حفاظت وطن عزیز به دوش میگیرن و ای پس جز افتخارات ماست. اما در عین حال در اول جنوری مناسبات نو با ایالات متحده امریکا به اساس پیمان استراتژیک و موافقه امنیتی که پارلمان افغانستان هفته پیشتر با اکثریت آرا ایره تصویب کرد انجام میشه و ما درباره تقویه، تعلیم و ممد بودن همه جانبه و تمویل قوای امنیتی ما امروز از اینا صحبت داشتیم و از ابتکار از اینا و از تقویه از اینا که هم در کنفرانس بروسل در مقر ناتو انجام دادن و امروز اینا شخصا اطمینان دادن، ابراز اطمینان میکنم. موضوع دوم ما ضرورت صلح، ثبات و کوشش همه جانبه بر ثبات منطقوی بود و همه ما به این نظر هستیم که خطرات از یک طرف و فرصت ها از طرف دیگه ایجاب همکاری همه جانبه منطقوی و دنیایی را میکنه. دنیا با خطرات مشترک مواجه است و ما مصمم هستیم که از این خطرات جلوگیری شود و از فرصت هایی که با ختم انتخابات و تشکیل حکومت وحدت ملی با وجود آمده استفاده اعظمی شود تا یک افغانستان که در صلح است، به ثبات رسیده و به طرف رفاه میره ایجاد شود و از کمک های از اینا در این بخش بازم ابراز امتنان میکنم. صلح یکی از اولویت های بنیادی جامعه ماست. موږ په دې باندې ټینګ ولاړ یو چې باید هر اړخیزې سولې ته ورسیږو. د سولې نقشې دپاره ملی، منطقوي او بین المللي شرایط باید آماده سي او دا منسجم او هر اړخیز فکر او کار غواړي او موږ غواړو دا په تدبیر، تعامل او دقت سره انشاءالله تعالی تر سره ورسوو. زه غواړم بیا هم ښاغلي هیګل ته ښه راغلاست ووایم. تاسې د افغانستان دوست یې، تاسې ما شخصي ملګري او همیشه به دلته ښه راغلاست او تاسې له ډېرې ښه نظریات نه او اتاسي لبينملي شخصيتنا مهمشة هركليكو خيرغلسن.
President Ghani, thank you. It is a privilege to be here with you and renew a friendship, as you have noted, that goes back many years. And I am particularly pleased that I am able to personally congratulate you on your new responsibilities. I also want to note that Dr. Abdullah, the CEO of the new Unity government, is an old friend, and I appreciated very much an opportunity to see him again and congratulate him as well. I would like to make a brief comment at the front end of this press conference with President Ghani, and that is to address the murder of an American citizen, Luke Summers. I released a statement a couple of hours ago about Mr. Summers' death. He was murdered during an attempt by American forces to rescue him from terrorist groups in Yemen. Our hearts are full of sorrow tonight. Our prayers and thoughts go out to the Summers family. There was also another hostage who was also killed in that attempted rescue, and our prayers and thoughts go out to all the families involved. I do think, though, that this is further evidence of America's continued commitment to always find its American hostages, no matter where they are, and make every effort to get those hostages returned to the United States. This mission, which there will be more detail forthcoming, was extremely well executed. It was a very dangerous and complicated mission, but like always in these efforts, there's risk. And again, I wanted to begin my comments today by noting the murder of Luke Summers, and again to his family and the families involved. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to all of them. I want to go back to the partnership, the friendship, the relationship between Afghanistan and the United States. And I noted in my opening comment the unity government that President Ghani and CEO Dr. Abdullah are leading, and their commitment to that unity government for the people of Afghanistan. And it's a effort, a unity government, that the United States strongly supports. And I want to also note, Mr. President, and commend both you and Dr. Abdullah for putting the interests of your country first. As the people of Afghanistan have hope, challenges ahead, as you have noted. We all recognize that, but what happened this year, a few months ago, the historic, peaceful transfer of power was quite significant. And that deserves not only recognition, but also acknowledgement for the people of Afghanistan, who refused to be intimidated and turned out and took active participation in a electoral process that produced a new government. I also want to thank the United States efforts and all here and who helped in that process over the last few months. And I particularly want to welcome our new American ambassador to Afghanistan. He's not exactly new, but he is the new U.S. ambassador, Ambassador McKinley, who I think just came in this morning. And also acknowledge once again General Campbell and his team, and of course our ISAF partners who have been so critical, will remain critical to the future of Afghanistan. And I want to note and thank the outgoing, retiring U.S. Ambassador to Afghanistan, Ambassador Cunningham, who has played a very, very important role in this process over the last 3 years for his service to his country, and in particular his service to strengthening this special partnership between our two countries. We thank Ambassador Cunningham and his family and wish them well. And I want to thank all of our men and women in uniform and those who are here in civilian capacities for what they continue to do. And I want to note especially during this time of holidays approaching, their sacrifices are particularly important because they will be away from their families. And to their families and to all of them, please know that President Obama, all of America, appreciates your sacrifice and your service. Reflecting a bit on what President Ghani noted in my statement about our friendship as well, I would note that I first visited this country as my first country that I visited after I was sworn in as Secretary of Defense. This is my fourth trip to Afghanistan as Secretary of Defense. But even before that, I traveled to Afghanistan many times as a United States Senator. In fact, my first trip was in January of 2002. So I have seen firsthand over many years of visits to this country the enormous progress that this country has made in its development, in its democracy, in its possibilities and hope for all its people. And that, I think, is further testimony to the strong partnership of our two countries. As the President said this afternoon, I had the opportunity to spend some time with the President, Chief Executive Officer, and as President Ghani noted, I had the opportunity to discuss that progress, as well as the transition to a new chapter in America's partnership with Afghanistan. And I think, again, when we go back to last summer and the electoral process, it's important to review that because since the summer of last year, Afghan forces have been in the lead in defending their citizens and their country. And as we saw during Afghanistan's elections this summer, Afghan forces have made tremendous strides in protecting the interest and the citizens of this country. Still more to do, still challenges ahead. But at the end of this month, ISAF's combat mission will come to an end, as everyone knows. NATO coalition forces will transition to the new Resolute Support mission, training, advising, and assisting Afghan forces as they assume full responsibility for their own nation's security. The coalition's new mission has the support of the Afghan people, which will be critical for its success. Last month, thanks to the leadership of President Ghani and Dr. Abdullah, the Afghan Parliament overwhelmingly approved the U.S.-Afghanistan Bilateral Security Agreement and the NATO Status of Forces Agreement. However, because of prior delays in signing these agreements, the force generation effort for resolute support is several months behind. It's behind where we hoped it would be at this time. As a result, President Obama has provided U.S. military commanders the flexibility to manage any temporary force shortfalls that we might experience for a few months as we allow for coalition troops to arrive in theater. This will mean a delayed withdrawal of up to 1,000 U.S. troops, so that up to 10,800 troops, rather than 9,800, could remain in Afghanistan through the end of this year and for the first few months next year. But the President's authorization will not change. It will not change our troops' missions or the long-term timeline for our withdrawal. As planned, resolute support will focus here in Kabul and Bagram, with a limited regional presence. As part of this mission, the United States is prepared to provide limited combat enabler support to Afghan forces, and American personnel will always have the right and the capacity to defend themselves against attacks. We will maintain a limited counterterrorism mission against al-Qaeda and its remnants, because as we draw down the combat mission, we have not forgotten what brought America to Afghanistan over a decade ago. We're committed to preventing al-Qaeda from using Afghanistan as a safe haven to threaten the United States, our allies and partners, and the Afghan people. And we will take appropriate measures against Taliban members who directly threaten U.S. and coalition forces in Afghanistan, or provide direct support to al-Qaeda. This afternoon, President Ghani, Dr. Abdullah, and I also discussed the important commitments made by coalition nations at this week's conferences in Brussels and London. Between 2012 and 2015, the United States will have provided more than $8 billion in civilian assistance, and our commitment will be enduring. The recent wave of Taliban attacks has made clear that the international community must not waver in its support for a stable, secure, and prosperous Afghanistan. I want to again thank my friend President Ghani, my friend Chief Executive Abdullah, for their leadership and their commitment to this partnership. And I want to recognize the tremendous service and sacrifices of not only our U.S. troops, but coalition troops and our partners in the Afghan National Security Forces. Their commitment has forged a defining moment of opportunity for Afghanistan's future and for the people of Afghanistan. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, because of the cameras. This is Mustafa from Turkish News Agency IHA. First of all, I would like to ask the Secretary, Jack Hagel. Mr. Secretary, 2012 or 2013, President Obama was planning to pull out combat troops in Afghanistan, and combat mission will end in Afghanistan. But now we are saying that the beginning of the next year, the U.S. forces will continue to combat mission in Afghanistan. What is the reasons of the continuing of the combat operations? Mr. President,
I think you misunderstood entirely what the Secretary and I said, Mr. Mustafa. There is no combat mission. You've just misunderstood.
okay.
Let me respond, and I know you have a question for the President, but as the President has just noted, what I said in my statement, that President Obama has not changed the mission of U.S. forces. Our combat role will end the end of this year. The additional margin of up to 1,000 troops, U.S. troops, remaining in Afghanistan for the next, possibly for the next few months, will be as a necessary result of getting our ISAF, now Resolute Support Mission partners, trainers, and their contributions to the future mission here in place. So we've essentially, President Obama has just bought some time for the process to catch up. But the mission does not change. Our combat role is over.
One question, please, each. Yes.
تشکر جناب رئیس جمهور. من شیرشان عوابی هستم، خبرنگار تلویزیون خورشید. دو سوال هم میخوایم مطرح بکنم.
یک سوال اجازه دارید. هر کدامتان چون بردگاه باید وقت رسید.
درست است. میخوایم پرسان بکنم که در قسمت تجهیز نیروهای امنیتی تعهدات آمریکا در نشستایی که انجام شده چه است و به خاطر از اینکه نیروهای امنیتی افغانستان در مجموع تمامی مسئولیت‌ها را بر دوش میگیرن، پس از این از لحاظ تجهیزات سنگین مشکلات دارن، گام‌های آمریکا چی خواهد بود؟
تشکر. First of all, Mr. Secretary, let me pay our respects for the loss of life of your citizen, Mr. Summers, in Yemen. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the families of all servicemen and women, those who've paid the ultimate sacrifice by losing their lives. Over 3,400 NATO personnel during the last 10 years of NATO paid the ultimate price. Over 30,000 were wounded. Hundreds of thousands of veterans have shared our lives, and I hope and I know that their lives are marked by our deserts, valleys, and mountains. We pray for all the fallen, and thank you for noticing the sacrifices of the Afghans. We have come a very long way together, and we want to make sure that at this season, the families of American servicemen and women understand that their sons and daughters are doing something to protect their homeland, worth stability, as well as help us. We do understand their sacrifices, and we hope that Christmas will be peaceful. And thank you again for coming. جواب سوالتان است که بحث‌های متمرکز داشتیم. تعهداتی که شده پابرجاست، این تعهدات در بروکسل در بلژیم تکرار شد. آل مرحله عملی کردن از این تعهدات است و بهتر ساختن طرز رهبری و مدیریت خود ما تا بتانیم استفاده اعظمی را به این انجام بدیم. این بحث معلوم دار بحث یک روزه نیست. اهداف تبدیل میشه به ارقام و اعداد و اینا، اما کمک که شما شنیدین کمک عمده که در قسمت تمویل است مطلق دوباره تکرار شده، تایید شده و این عمده ترین نقطه است که قوای امنیتی ما باید مطمئن باشند که تمویل دارند. در قسمت تجهیز و تعلیم تعهدات واضح وجود داره. این پروگرام ها هم دراز مدت است هم یک ساله است. سر پروگرام یک ساله به شدت کار جریان داره تا بتانیم نقاط بنیادی را انشالله تعالی فراهم کنیم. بله شما دو سوال دیگه داریم.
تشکر رئیس راتب نوری هستم، خبرنگار تلو نیوز. سوالی که من مطرح می ساختم میخوایم بپرسم در رابطه با تعهداتی که شما در نشست لندن کردین به جامعه جهانی، در 6 ماه آینده چگونه شما مطمئن هستین که تعهدات برآورده خواهید ساخت؟
Mr. Secretary, do you feel responsible for the outcome of the Yemen raid? Do you believe Mr. Summers would have been killed by his captors if the U.S. Had not acted? And Mr. President, what additional U.S. assistance do your forces need? Are your forces under-equipped for the year to come?
Missy Ryan from the Washington Post. Mr. Secretary, Secretary Hagel, I'd like to ask about the decision which you just announced to leave up to 1,000 troops temporarily, extra troops temporarily into next year. Do you believe that that decision, along with the recent decision to expand some of the air support and enabling authorities for the United States post-2014, undermines the message of ending the war in Afghanistan for the United States? And do you have firm numerical commitments from NATO countries to provide troops to the Resolute Support mission by a certain date next spring, so that then you can go down to the 9,800? Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, you first.
Thank you. Well, let me take your question first on the decision that the President made to keep an additional 1,000 troops here to help fill the Resolute Support mission gap until they catch up, based on what I said in my statement, because the election process took longer and that set everybody back. That does not undermine, that doesn't change the President's policy, his commitment on numbers. What I have just explained is the reason that he made that decision. That was a recommendation that General Campbell made to Chairman Dempsey and me. We recommended that decision to the President. The National Security Council was unanimous on their recommendation to the President. It does not undermine anything, doesn't change any part of what the President's strategy is. You had a second part to the. We are in the process of finalizing those now. As you know, that was part of what we were doing. Secretary Kerry, General Campbell, others at the two recent meetings in the NATO ministerial in Brussels, and then of course it was part of the London conversation as well. We still have, just as we had planned, the 4 framework countries that are committed, and we will have the rest of the last pieces in place here over the next few weeks. General Breedlove is working with General Campbell on that, so I'm confident that we'll be able to make those kinds of commitments, and those commitments will be in place. As to your question about the rescue effort for Mr. Summers, I think anyone with any responsibility for any missions always has responsibility for actions. That's number one. Number two, a rescue mission for a hostage is a very complicated matter. It consists of intelligence that we must have tremendous confirmation or the best we can get on, even before an operation is considered. Intelligence of where that hostage is, who is holding that hostage, where, all the dimensions of security around that hostage. The next piece of that is the operational plan itself, which is very complicated. Many parts, moving parts, all at one time. Another important factor is, was the hostage's life at risk? Would we be taking unnecessary risks to get a hostage out? Those are but just 3 components that go into a series of dimensions of consideration before any serious consideration of a rescue attempt is ever made. So I say that because, again, Our hearts are full of sorrow, as I said, that Luke Summers was murdered. He was taken hostage. His life was clearly in danger. And we all, including the President on down, and we made the recommendations to the President, of course, have to take responsibilities for any action or inaction that we didn't take. So I would let that answer.
Well, please, no dialogue.
I will.
Please observe the same rules as the Afghan journalists.
Thank you. I like his style here. But he's the president. So. There will be more details coming out on this specific mission, but at this point, I don't have any further details to share.
تعهدات ما در لندن تعهدات است که ما با ملت خود کردیم. اصلاحات بنیادی، تدریجی و همه جانبه. از این جهت این تعهدات نیست که از بیرون سر ما تحمیل شده باشه. کاغذ ما نوشتیم، قسمت عمده کاغذ ما شخصا نوشتیم. از این جهت از یک طرف اجماع سیاسی در سرتاسر اقشار افغانستان موجود است که باید تغییرات بنیادی بیاریم و ملت ما آماده تغییرات است، استقبال میکنه. از طرف دیگه اراده سیاسی موجود است که عملاً باید اقدام کنیم و امید است که دیده باشین که ما توان اراده را داریم و تمرکز میکنیم، اما همه چیز در یک روز به انجام رسیده نمیتونه، عملی شده نمیتونه. بنابراین یک تعادل مثل همیشه که گفتیم بین تحول و تداوم باید وجود داشته باشه تا ما بتانیم هر قدم را که میگذاریم یک قدم دوامدار باشه و نتایجش برای ملت در کوتاه مدت، وسط مدت و دراز مدت موجب تغییر زندگی باشه و تعهد ما دمیج است. Let me welcome your question. First of all, the key issue is the use of existing capabilities. There is no army on earth, there is no security force, there is no civilian that will not ask for more. But the job of leadership is to first ask of itself and of the team, are the existing resources being used most efficiently, most accountably, most transparently? So our first attempt is focus on reform of our security institutions, where we'll be able to account for every penny of expenditure, every vehicle that is used, every piece of weaponry. Our focus now is not on fighting individual battles, it is on systems, on management and leadership, on the capabilities. In the last 2 months, we've taken the rare step that was not taken in different circumstances of retiring 15 senior generals in Afghanistan's army. The criteria was age and physical ability to perform tasks. This has opened up a lone room for change of 70 senior positions. All of these are being handled through a very careful process. I've promised that as Commander-in-Chief, I'll be personally interviewing every person who's promoted to brigadier or is assigned to the rank of brigadier and above. And I've been doing this. So I think our first job is to make better use of existing resources. In this regard, I want to express my most sincere appreciation to General Campbell and his team. We couldn't ask for better partners in this endeavor, and to Secretary Hagel and the entire US team for focusing on the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that we need to understand that we need to bring peace, stability, and prosperity to this country. Every problem is not a nail to be hit with the hammer of force. We need governance reform, we need focus on the economy, and especially rule of law, the glue that binds, to make our gains enduring. So it's the wider strategy within which we are putting the resources. Second, there's a plan, agreed plan under the context of Chicago. And according to the BSA, we have the agreement that this plan will be visited annually in terms of better efficiencies regarding use of resources. And we are focusing on that. Having said that, of course, we do have shortages in certain particular areas. Those are part of our bilateral and multilateral discussions, and we very much hope that our forces will have the full capabilities. But let me conclude by thanking our forces most sincerely. Every single member of Afghanistan's army and police is a volunteer, man or woman. Nobody is compelling them to serve in the Afghan armed forces. Their patriotism, their willingness to sacrifice, their commitment to this country is what keeps us going. We face threats that we are aware of. We're facing changing environments of threats. But one thing needs to be clearly understood. Our gains are irreversible, and we are determined to make sure that our people live in safety and security. What we strive for is normalcy. To take a walk, a grandfather take a walk with a granddaughter, and be safe to return. A young student going to school and making sure, being confident that she's not blown up. Children who play volleyball and can enjoy the game and not be received as mangled bodies. So while we are absolutely keen on peace, and we know that this conflict must end politically, it also needs to be understood that our spirit will not be weakened by cowardly violence against our civilian, particularly our children, women, religious scholars, places of worship. And it's that determination that would ultimately make the difference, and everybody will realize that Afghanistan is here to stay. A peaceful Afghanistan is not a threat to anyone. A stable Afghanistan is key to regional prosperity. We're very keen on the regional dialogue that we've started, and we very much hope that will yield results. Thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you. Thank you.